So election results are in from Tuesday, at least most of them are. We have losses for the left, and we have victories for the left. This is not something that's being reported on in the media. In fact, all of the headlines on this are totally misleading. When people say, and you'll see this all over the place now, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's movement fizzles. No wins for the Ocasio-Cortez endorsed candidates. That is not true, and it's not even close. So it is true that there are some of the candidates that she endorsed and campaigned for, high-profile ones, that did not win. But because these mainstream media organizations are insanely lazy, they don't look up whether or not that broader statement is correct. The broader statement being, oh, all of her candidates lost. You would think that maybe if you are a so-called journalist or reporter in a mainstream media organization, you would see how Our Revolution did, see how Justice Democrats did. But no, I'm convinced that there are people today still reporting on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who don't even know she's a Justice Democrat and don't even know what Justice Democrats are. So, they suck at their job, and they're also lazy, the mainstream media. Okay, so first let's discuss the downside. I'll give you guys the losses. Cori Bush lost in Missouri against Lacey Clay. That was a long shot race from the beginning, and we knew that going into it. We have Abdul El Sayed lost for Michigan governor. Now, I'm going to come back to that one in a second because it's disheartening what happened and how it happened. And there is somewhere to place the blame, and it's not on Abdul. Okay, and then also we had Brent Welder lost in Kansas. Now, that was a little bit of a questionable situation that went on over there. So they have new voting machines. The new voting machines apparently malfunctioned, shit the bed, when Brent Welder was up in the race and growing his lead. And then when the malfunctioning machines started, recalibrating and calculating the votes, shocker, Brent Welder ended up losing. So, people look at that and they're like, wow, that's mighty convenient. The anti-establishment candidate was winning and growing his lead, and then all of a sudden there was a problem with the machines, and Brent Welder ended up losing. Now, am I out here making declarative and definitive statements like this was obviously some sort of, rigging or some sort of conspiracy? I can't make that claim because I don't have evidence. All I'm saying is that at face value, when you look at it circumstantially, yeah, it doesn't look good. That looks weird. That's not cool. So that one was a little bit of a heartbreaker because it looked like he was going to pull it out. There was a tremendous amount of momentum behind him coming into the election. I mean, a tremendous amount of momentum. So that one hurts. Now, back to Abdul El Sayed for a second. There's a guy named Sharif Anadar. Now, I think it is a completely fair statement to make to say he spoiled it for Abdul El Sayed and, in fact, turned the election over to Gretchen Whitmer, the more establishment candidate who ended up winning. Now, people have pointed out online, they said, well, hold on now. How can you say that when that's the claim that the corporatists make and the centrists make against Jill Stein? Like, oh, Jill Stein spoiled the election for Hillary Clinton. Well, there's a very, very big difference. Sharif Anadar is a liar. So I've never, ever, ever gone after honest actors in elections, even if, those honest actors may have happened to split the vote on the left and then ended up hurting the left and helping Republicans. You will be hard-pressed to ever find a situation where I've gone after an honest actor, because I believe in democracy. So that means, you can run a campaign that's a center-left candidate, and you're open and honest about that, and you can run a campaign that's populist left, and there could even be another candidate that's populist left. As long as both of them are telling the truth about what they believe and they're genuine, I'm not going to attack them, even if the fact that there are two populist left candidates ended up splitting the populist left vote and turning it over to the right, or turning it over to a corporate Democrat. You can never be mad at any of the candidates because they're genuine. And so democracy means, hey, you want to run and try to represent the people and put your philosophy out there? By all means. I can't attack you and say, oh, you spoiled the election for them, if you're an honest actor. The reason why I'm very comfortable attacking Sri Thanadar and saying he spoiled the election for Abdul is very simple. He ran on this platform of, I'm the candidate that's most like Bernie Sanders. He even said in an ad, I'm the furthest left candidate. Well, The Intercept did some fantastic reporting, and it turns out this guy behind the scenes was like, I'm not sure. Should I run as a Republican or should I run as somebody as a Democrat? And, you know, I mean, I've donated to Republicans in the past. I lean right, so maybe I should run as a Republican. Oh no, all the energy is on the Bernie wing of the Democratic Party, so now I'm gonna try to run as a Bernie-crat, and I'm gonna say I'm the furthest left candidate in this race. Now, you might know that he's a liar because you've seen that Intercept article before, or you've heard me talk about him before. I guarantee you, the overwhelming majority of the people who voted for him had no idea that he was a Republican. He had donated to Republicans. In this race, he was considering running as a Republican before he decided to make a political calculation and lie to people and say, I'm a Bernie Sanders-style Democrat. So that's how this is different. It's different because he spoiled the race and he lied. That's why I can say he's spoiling the race. It's not spoiling the race if you're running as another left-wing candidate and you're honest, because then that's just called democracy. You get to run because you're being honest, even if that does happen to split the vote on the left. He's splitting the vote on the left, but he's lying. So the problem is that he's lying. That's the problem, is that he's a fucking liar. He's a fraud. That's the problem. So I'm very comfortable blaming Sri for Abdul's loss. Because, like I said, the overwhelming majority of people who voted for him, they were thinking, they probably saw that ad where he said, I'm the furthest left candidate in the race. And they're like, okay, I guess that's the furthest left candidate in the race. I'm going to vote for him. When Abdul was the real Bernie Sanders style candidate, he was a Justice Democrat. And of course, he would have been fantastic. By the way, he ran a tremendous race. And it's a shame that, Sri did what he did here. Okay, now. So those are the losses. Now, those are the ones that the media is going to focus on and say, see, the left obviously is not going to be, they're not going to win. That's not the direction the Democratic Party should go in. So before I even tell you the victories of the Justice Democrats, let me point this out. Balderson versus O'Connor. That was a very high-profile race. It was getting a lot of attention. Now, none of them are Justice Democrats. You had Balderson, who's the Trump-endorsed Republican. O'Connor, who's a corporate Democrat, a centrist Democrat. And O'Connor, openly ran on that. He's like, I'm not a socialist. I don't believe in Medicare for all. I'm a centrist. I believe in compromise. So that's O'Connor. The media was saying, obviously O'Connor's going to win because there's this anti-Trump backlash. Guess what happened? Balderson won. Now, it is a Republican plus 11 district, and in the end, it looks like Balderson wins by about a point or less than a point. So the hilarious thing is, when corporate Democrats lose, as O'Connor did, this is still somehow going to be evidence of corporate Democrats are the way to beat the right. Okay, but they didn't do that. They didn't beat the Trump-endorsed Republican. The Trump-endorsed Republican beat the corporate Democrat. So how can your takeaway be, corporate Democrats are better to take on the right than the left is? But they didn't win. Yeah, but they surged back. It was a Republican plus 11 district, and now it's just a Republican plus 1 district. Okay, so then be comfortable with losing every race by 1. I mean, so in other words, the most high-profile case of, a corporate centrist Democrat, the neoliberals, the most high-profile case. That dude lost. But this election is somehow being spun as a loss for the populist left. Hilarious. Now, let's get to the victories for the Justice Democrats. So we have Justice Democrat Robert Davidson. He won in Missouri's 2nd District. You probably haven't heard anything about this guy in the media at all. You have, of course, Pramila Jayapal, who won her primary. She's an incumbent Justice Democrat, along with, of course, Ro Khanna and Raul Grijalva. You have Jamie Schoolcraft, who won in Missouri's 7th District. Again, sure you haven't heard anything about this guy. You have James Thompson, who won in Kansas's 4th District. This is another high-profile Justice Democrat. You know, in terms of how much he was out there, his name was honestly out there just as much, if not more, than Cori Bush. So Cori Bush lost, but they're focusing on the Cori Bush loss. But, James Thompson's win, you don't see anything about it. In fact, they say, there's no Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez movement candidates ended up winning. What are you talking about? At least 5, and there's one other that's a potential win. We still don't know because there's voting machine issues. Weird how that works again. But at least 5 Justice Democrats won. James Thompson, one of the more high-profile ones. And then there's Rashida Tlaib, who's in Michigan's 13th District. She's a Justice Democrat, and she won as well. Now, this one's getting a little more press because the press can use it for identity politics reasons, and they're like, the first female Muslim candidate that's going to be elected to Congress. Okay, that's wonderful. I care more about her policy positions and the substance. And it turns out, on the substance, she's wonderful and she's a Justice Democrat. So they're focusing on almost none of our victories. And in fact, they're flat out factually wrong when they say, there were no victories for the left. That's not true. And on top of all that, how many candidates did Our Revolution have that won? About 12. So you have 5 Justice Democrats winning, potentially 6 in the end, 12 Our Revolution candidates winning, some of them very high profile. Of course, we had some losses too, but it's being spun as, obviously the left can't take on Donald Trump, and the corporate centrists are the way to go. Even though in the most high profile case of a corporate centrist versus a Trump-endorsed Republican, the corporate centrist lost. So this is being spun in 1,000 ways. It's so hilariously sad how many people have fallen for that argument. All the headlines, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's candidates lose. That's not true. It's not true. Stop saying it. Stop believing it. Do your fucking research. And, listen, I'm upset about Brent Welder and Abdul El Sayed, but you win some, you lose some, man. You win some, you lose some. And remember, we are at a permanent disadvantage in terms of the money situation. You have to keep that in mind. That's not a little thing. That's a really big thing. In the case of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she was able to override that difference through just boots on the ground and hard work. But that's not the norm. That's not the general rule. In fact, that's an exception to the rule. So just keep that in mind. That, other cases, for example, Paula Jean Swearengin, she was drowned out by the money. Others were drowned out by the money. So it's always going to require, it's unfair because it's a 100-yard dash and the corporate Democrats start on the 70-yard line and we start at the beginning. So it's unfair, but we have to play the hand that we're dealt. And that means we have to work even harder. That means we have to get the name out there even more. That means we have to raise more small dollar donations for these candidates. That means we need to have more boots on the ground and knocking on doors and making phone calls and all that stuff. But I just want everybody to know, don't let it take the wind out of your sails. There were some cases here that were losses, but you're never going to win every one, and you just have to keep fighting. And what the thing is, guys, the establishment is relying on you to throw your hands up and say, fuck it. We didn't win Brent Welder's one. Fuck it. So we're done with this. I'm not going to be involved in this. We didn't win Abdul El Sayed ones. Fuck it. whatever. No, they're relying on that. That's what they want. And you're actually unwittingly doing the establishment's bidding if you end up giving into that urge, that sensation. We all get it. It happens all the time. Everybody gets it. It's an initial gut reaction of like, really? Really? All this fucking work and we know we have the right candidate and it didn't pan out? Well, fuck this then. That's exactly what they want. So we have to keep fighting, and then eventually we'll keep winning. Don't believe the lies. Don't believe the bullshit. It's not as bad as they're making it seem. So we fight on. Let's continue.